I never imagined it would end like this. Just 3 months. That's all the time we had together before he disappeared from my life without a single explanation. One moment we were planning our future, sharing dreams and secrets, and the next I was left alone, clutching my phone, staring at a message that shattered everything. It wasn't just the suddenness of it that broke me. It was the silence that followed. No calls, no texts, no I'm sorry or I need time. Just emptiness. I kept asking myself, what did I do wrong? Was I not enough? Those questions haunted me day and night. I remember the last time I saw him, the way his eyes avoided mine, the tightness in his jaw, the coldness in his voice when he said, "I think we need to take a break." It felt like a punch to the gut, but I held on to hope, telling myself maybe it was just a rough patch. But days turned into weeks, and the silence only grew louder. I was drowning in confusion and heartbreak, desperate for answers that never came. And then, just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, a truth surfaced. A secret he had been hiding. One that changed everything I thought I knew about us. This is the story of how I lost him, how I found the truth, and how that truth changed my life forever. I met him on a crisp autumn evening, the kind where the air feels fresh and the world seems full of possibilities. It was at a small, cozy coffee shop, the kind with soft lighting, worn wooden tables, and the comforting aroma of freshly brewed coffee. I remember feeling a flutter of excitement as our eyes met across the room. There was something about his smile, warm, genuine, and inviting, that made me feel instantly at ease. Our first conversation was effortless. We talked about everything and nothing all at once. He told me about his childhood, the places he'd traveled, and the dreams he held close. I shared my own stories, the hopes I'd tucked away for years. It felt like we were two puzzle pieces finally fitting together. It wasn't just the suddenness of it that broke me. It was the silence that followed. No calls, no texts, no I'm sorry or I need time. Just emptiness. I kept asking myself, what did I do wrong? Was I not enough? Those questions haunted me day and night. I remember the last time I saw him, the way his eyes avoided mine, the tightness in his jaw, the coldness in his voice when he said, "I think we need to take a break." It felt like a punch to the gut, but I held on to hope, telling myself maybe it was just a rough patch. But days turned into weeks, and the silence only grew louder. I was drowning in confusion and heartbreak, desperate for answers that never came. And then, just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, a truth surfaced. A secret he had been hiding. One that changed everything I thought I knew about us. This is the story of how I lost him, how I found the truth, and how that truth changed my life forever. I met him on a crisp autumn evening, the kind where the air feels fresh and the world seems full of possibilities. It was at a small, cozy coffee shop, the kind with soft lighting, worn wooden tables, and the comforting aroma of freshly brewed coffee. I remember feeling a flutter of excitement as our eyes met across the room. There was something about his smile, warm, genuine, and inviting, that made me feel instantly at ease. Our first conversation was effortless. We talked about everything and nothing all at once. He told me about his childhood, the places he'd traveled, and the dreams he held close. I shared my own stories, the hopes I'd tucked away for years. It felt like we were two puzzle pieces finally fitting together. One evening, after a particularly long day of waiting and wondering, I finally gathered the courage to send him a message. It was simple, almost hesitant. "Hey, is everything okay? You've been really quiet lately." I stared at the screen, willing him to reply. Minutes stretched into hours and still no response. My chest tightened with a mix of worry and confusion. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, unsure if he was going to reach out and pull me back, or let me fall. The next day, desperation took over. I called him, hoping to hear his voice, to understand what was happening, but the call went straight to voicemail. I left a message, my voice trembling but steady. "I'm worried about you. Please call me back when you can." I waited, hoping for a sign, any sign that he was still there. But the silence stretched on, growing heavier with each passing day. I began to spiral. Was I imagining things? Had I done something wrong? Was I not enough? These questions haunted me relentlessly. I scoured every interaction, every word, every glance, trying to piece together what had gone wrong. The uncertainty was unbearable. Then out of nowhere came the text that shattered everything. "I think we need to take a break." No explanation, no warning, just those 6 cold words that felt like a knife twisting in my heart. I remember sitting on my bedroom floor, phone in hand, tears streaming down my face. The room felt suffocating, the walls closing in as the reality of his words sank in. How could someone I trusted so deeply just walk away without a word? The pain was raw, overwhelming, and all-consuming. In the days that followed, I was trapped in a whirlwind of emotions. Hope, despair, anger, confusion. I told myself he would come back, that this was just a rough patch we could overcome. But deep down I feared the truth, that he was gone for good. I reached out to friends and family, seeking comfort and advice. Some told me to move on. Others urged patience. But no one could fill the void left by his absence. The nights were the hardest. I lay awake, haunted by memories of laughter, whispered promises, and dreams we had shared. I questioned my worth, wondering if I was enough, if I had failed somehow. The silence wasn't just the absence of his voice. It was the absence of answers, closure, and understanding. It was a void that swallowed me whole, leaving me feeling lost and alone. Weeks passed in a haze of unanswered questions and restless nights. The silence between us was suffocating, and every day felt heavier than the last. I was caught in a whirlwind of confusion, heartbreak, and desperate hope that he might reach out, that somehow things would go back to the way they were. Then one afternoon, out of the blue, I received a message from a mutual friend. She hesitated before telling me what she knew, as if unsure how I would react. Her words hit me like a thunderclap. He had been struggling with severe anxiety, a battle he had kept hidden from everyone, including me. First I was stunned. Anxiety? I had no idea. The man I thought I knew, the one I had trusted with my heart, was fighting a silent war inside himself. Suddenly, the pieces of our fractured relationship began to fall into place. The distant looks, the sudden withdrawals, the moments when he seemed overwhelmed but said nothing. I sat down, overwhelmed by a flood of emotions. Relief washed over me, knowing that his disappearance wasn't about me or our relationship. It was about his own fears and pain, battles I hadn't seen or understood. But alongside that relief was a deep sadness. Sadness for the pain he had endured alone, and for the love we had lost because of it. I began to replay our time together with new eyes. I remembered the nights he seemed restless, the way he flinched at loud noises or sudden movements, the times he avoided deep conversations. I had mistaken these signs for disinterest or coldness, but now I saw them as silent cries for help, signals of a struggle he couldn't voice. This revelation changed everything. It shifted my perspective from anger and confusion to empathy and understanding. I realized that sometimes, love isn't enough to heal someone else's wounds. Sometimes the hardest battles are the ones fought within, invisible to the outside world. Determined to reach out, I sent him a message, not filled with blame or hurt, but with compassion and patience. I'm here if you want to talk. No pressure, just know you're not alone. It was a small step, but it felt like the right one. Days later he replied. His words were hesitant, raw, and honest. He admitted he was scared of being vulnerable, scared of dragging me into his darkness. He apologized for leaving without explanation, and thanked me for understanding. That conversation didn't fix everything overnight. Healing is never that simple, but it opened a door, a fragile, hopeful door. It was the beginning of a new chapter, not just for him but for me as well. I learned that love requires patience, empathy, and sometimes the courage to let go. I learned that people carry burdens we can't always see, and that sometimes, the greatest act of love is to stand by someone's side, even when they can't ask for help. This turning point transformed our story from one of heartbreak to one of compassion and resilience. It taught me that every person's journey is complex, and that understanding can be the first step toward healing. Healing wasn't easy. In the weeks and months that followed, I found myself navigating a complex maze of emotions: grief, anger, hope, and acceptance all tangled together. Some days, the pain felt unbearable, like a heavy weight pressing down on my chest. Other days I caught glimpses of light, moments of clarity and strength that reminded me I could move forward. I started by giving myself permission to feel everything. I cried when I needed to, I journaled my thoughts and fears, and I talked openly with close friends and family. Their support became my lifeline, a reminder that I wasn't alone in this journey. One of the hardest lessons I learned was forgiveness, not just forgiving him for leaving, but forgiving myself for the guilt and self-doubt that had taken root. I realized that his struggles were not my fault, and that my worth wasn't defined by someone else's inability to stay. I also began to understand the importance of boundaries and self-care. Loving someone who is hurting doesn't mean losing yourself in the process. I learned to prioritize my own healing, to nurture my passions, and to rebuild my sense of self outside of the relationship. Slowly, I started to reclaim my life. I revisited old hobbies, made new friends, and set goals that were just for me. Each small step was a victory, a testament to my resilience. There were moments of doubt, of course, times when I wondered if I would ever fully heal or trust again. But with each passing day, those doubts grew quieter, replaced by a growing sense of hope and possibility. Looking back, I'm grateful for the pain because it taught me so much about love, empathy, and strength. It showed me that sometimes the most profound growth comes from the hardest experiences. Though our story didn't end the way I had hoped, it wasn't a failure. It was a chapter in my life that shaped me, made me wiser, and prepared me for whatever comes next. And now I'm ready to open my heart again. Not because I'm searching for someone to complete me, but because I've learned to be whole on my own. If there's one thing I want you to take away from my story, it's this: healing is possible. Even when it feels impossible, even when the silence is deafening, you are stronger than you know, and your story isn't over yet. If you've ever experienced heartbreak or loss, know that you're not alone. I invite you to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories that explore the depths of human emotion and inspire hope. Thank you for listening to The Stories Within. Together we find strength in our shared experiences.